Chapter 13. Did I have a car in high school? The answer is yes, and it was very cool. I wish I had it in my garage today. It would be a classic. It was a 1955 Chevy Bel Air two-door hardtop with a V8 and automatic transmission. My mom loved it too. I am a car guy and have been for as long as I can remember. I was 16 and a half when I got the car. My dad and I went out to the Chevy dealership in Catlin and we got it used in 1963. I can remember it well. I picked it up on the last day of school my junior year at Danville High School. I think it was around $400 and I had gotten a loan from the First National Bank. The lady's name was Mrs. Richardson. I paid for it myself with money from working part-time at Eisner's Grocery on East Main and playing in a band. I drove that car to school every day my senior year. Having a car meant that I could drive myself to work and to band rehearsal and gigs. It was freedom. I kept that car spick and span. No longer did I have to rely on our family car, a 1957 Ford Fairlane 500. My mom liked me to take her for rides in it, and we even went on vacation in it. Things started to change when my friend Jeff Ross joined the band as our lead singer. He started to bring out the competitive side of me when it came to the car. Jeff and I hung out together a lot, and he was more of a car guy than I was. Hard to believe. It wasn't long until I was modifying my car to make it more of a hot rod. Jeff knew a lot of guys that were into hopping up their cars and drag racing. First thing you know, I have converted it to a 4-speed stick shift and put a bigger motor in it. This did not make my mother happy. Being the great mother that she was, she accepted that fact that it was no longer our car but my car. She always supported everything that I wanted, from a motorcycle jacket for Christmas to a go-kart to a motor scooter. This was no different. How could I have been so blessed? My dad always quietly went along too. Well, after several unofficial drag races, we decided to take the car to the drag strip in Terre Haute. Jeff was working for a delivery company in town called Mackenzie's and drove a delivery truck. He used that truck as his own on weekends. We hitched my 55 to the bumper and we towed it to the track, like the big boys did with their race cars. That made us feel like pros. We raced it as stock, although it wasn't, and we came home with a trophy. After a while, I didn't want to drive a Hot Rod 55 anymore and sold it. I got a nice 61 Pontiac Catalina. That car only held my interest for about 6 months. Then it was on to another sporty car. That one was a 63 Pontiac Le Mans. By this time, I had learned my lesson on hopping up my cars. Buy one that meets your needs and don't fiddle with it. The Pontiac Le Mans was a nice mid-size car with a pretty big V8 and stick shift. The only modifying Jeff and I did to this car was to put a GTO emblem on the grille. This was all I needed to get me my sports car. By the way, this is the car I had when I met Marilyn Kuhn. At this same time, Jeff and I went together and bought a real hot rod from my cousin Joyce. It was a 1931 Ford Coupe. This is an entire story in itself, which I will leave for later. I will finish by saying that in 1966, I was ready to get a brand new car. I went to Noble Ford, the local Ford dealer, and purchased a new Mustang. I drove it right off the showroom floor. This is the car that Marilyn and I had when we got married. The interesting thing about being able to buy these cars was that I had made a very good impression with Mrs. Richardson at the bank. I never was late with a payment. Whenever I wanted a new car loan, she did not hesitate to give it to me. As a matter of fact, I made double payments on the Mustang and paid it off in half the time. She was a fine lady.